look, every breath that you take in this life, you're never gonna get back. So you gotta make it worth it. You gotta go after it. When I was a kid, I looked at life as a game. I didn't look at it the way that a majority of people really look at it. You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to go to school. I never looked at life that way. I look at it still as a game. And what's the most important part of this game? It's results. Results in your relationship, work, whatever, athletic career, whatever it is, it's those results. Your health is a result. How do you get to those results? It's the attitude that you have. It's your mindset. It's going to lead you to your thoughts, to your actions, your thoughts to your feelings to your actions, to your results. It's got to be that mindset. It's got to be that heart and the value. You have to know what that value is to yourself. You have to know what that value is to others that are around you. You have to know what it is that you want, how bad you want it, what you're willing to give or give up, sacrifice in order to attain it. And if you can't look at all those things and it matches up, it's not right. Something's off. You got to reset that.
That was Marie Saccurato, and this is the Bravest Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Today's episode is a powerful one on so many different levels, so I'm very happy that you're here. I'm really excited to share with you in just a few moments. And now thinking back when I launched the podcast, I set forth with a mission to help all of us live the healthiest version of ourselves possible, despite any obstacles that might be associated with living with diabetes. Now, while hearing inspirational stories and learning from those within the community is priceless, I think it's important not to isolate or to ignore the tremendous value that those on the periphery of the diabetes world can offer. Now, this episode is a conversation with someone who, while she might not be directly touched by diabetes, she has an amazing story that will make us all think and really help us all look at our own personal challenges and our own lives much more closely. Growing up in a town just north of New York City, Marie Saccurato was raised in a violent environment. Her father was part of organized crime, and ultimately he abandoned Marie and her family. Although life was tough, a mindset of self-motivation and inner drive really guided Marie to focus her energy and compete in basketball, in softball, and in volleyball all the way through high school. Now, a lot of times on the show, I like to talk to our guests about defining moments. And in this case, it was a car accident after a state volleyball championship that left Marie at the doorstep of death. And despite massive physical trauma, she recounts that the accident not only served to strengthen her, but it really solidified her resolve to come back even stronger. Her physicians actually told her that she would never walk normally again, and she would definitely not play sports again, but she knew they were very wrong. And in just a few short months after tireless dedication to physical therapy, Marie was a dual sport athlete playing volleyball and basketball at a Division I university. Marie then took her natural spirit as a fighter into the boxing ring, and within 2 weeks of starting her formal training, she was toe-to-toe with the national champion in her weight class. That particular fight led to an invitation the very next day for Marie to be a member of the USA boxing team in the U.S. Nationals. And that chance invitation led her down a path to fight in larger venues and eventually to become 3-time WBC lightweight world champion. And get this, just last year, Marie was inducted into the International Women's Boxing Hall of Fame. This is a conversation of being humble, of inner strength. It's a conversation of perseverance and grassroots effort to help others identify and head down their own path to overcoming any challenges they might face. But before we get into it with Marie, this episode is brought to you by my friends and the new apparel company with a big purpose called Greater Than. And I've been talking a lot about these guys over the past few episodes. Now, earlier this year, Stephen and Jen Kramer learned that their 6-year-old son had type 1 diabetes. And although the diagnosis was clearly a shock to them, their hearts told them they needed to do something to make a positive impact. They felt they needed to use their new experiences to help others feel like they had power despite any challenges they might face. So they created, and then they launched, the apparel company Greater Than. Now, Greater Than is a lifestyle brand dedicated to empowering all of us. They believe, and they want all of us to believe, that whatever our challenges might be, we are definitely greater than those challenges. Now, because of the personal impact resulting from the recent diagnosis of their son, their first campaign focuses on the Type 1 community and is branded Greater Than 1. So the cool thing about all of this is that not only are they designing an apparel line, which includes baseball hats and soon-to-be-released t-shirts and hoodies, they all look amazing, but with every purchase of Greater Than products, a portion of each sale will be donated directly to Type 1 diabetes research and to support. Now, if you go to their website, which is www.imgreaterthan.com, place your order, and be sure to use the code BRAVEST on checkout, you'll get 10% off your entire purchase just for saying you heard about them on the podcast. So go to imgreaterthan.com. Don't forget to use the code BRAVEST for 10% off your entire order. And one other really cool announcement I have regarding Greater Than, we just partnered up to produce a brand new video series called Your Bravest Life. Now, the core focus of that series is to provide insight and answers to questions relating to living a healthy life with diabetes. And the first episode is up right now, so if you head on over to the Greater Than website, just take a look at it. We're starting to field questions that we'll be answering on the show. So if you have any diabetes-related questions you'd like us to address, there's an email at the tail end of the first episode you can use to communicate with Jen and Stephen over there and myself. And we really hope to feature those types of questions in upcoming episodes of Your Bravest Life. So, all right, guys, buckle up. This is a powerful episode. This is my conversation with Marie Saccurato. So here's the thing. So this is really the first time that I've had a guest on my podcast that has not been involved directly in the world of diabetes. So a lot of the people that I've interviewed so far for the show either have type 1 diabetes, have overcome and kind of reversed course on type 2 diabetes. But what I found really interesting and the mission that I set forth when I started the podcast was to also bring people outside of that diabetes community into the world so we can actually take information from people like you and people outside of the diabetes community to help us kind of live a healthier, happier life, and to kind of make changes in our world if we are so inclined. So, Marie Saccurato, thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure. It's an honor to be here. And I mean, that kind of goes both ways, everything you just stated, because being involved with this, I've definitely known people dealing with diabetes, but this piques my interest to want to get more involved, in helping, inspiring any way that I can, individuals dealing with diabetes or any adversity, so to speak, for lack of a better term, that they may be dealing with in their life. That's what my mission is in my life. So
yeah, I definitely want to talk more about that because your history and your mission, as we've talked about, is super interesting and inspiring. And so I'm definitely honored to have you here today. Look, we kind of know each other. We're part of the 5 a.m. crew in the gym, and you're a trainer. And what I would say is that you're a coach. I apologize. But you're not just any coach, because what I've noticed is, look, I've seen a lot of quote-unquote trainers and coaches throughout the course of my lifetime, really. And there was always something, even before we started to have conversations, that I noticed about you that was very different than most people. And I couldn't quite put my finger on it because we never had a conversation. But I've always been intrigued by kind of the creative workouts that you've put your clients through. And I knew that you were super smart when it came to fitness, but the more I dug into your background, the more I wanted to learn and ultimately share your story on today's show.
Thank you.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's do this. Let's start at the beginning. I always like to kind of figure out a little bit about my guests and where they came from, where they grew up. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Westchester County, in pretty much Eastchester, on the border of Eastchester, Mount Vernon, Pelham, right?
And that's just north of New York City, right?
Just north of, about 20 minutes outside New York City.
Yep.
Yep. I grew up there. I was actually born in the Bronx, grew up there, or grew up in Westchester, and grew up in a quote unquote dysfunctional family. My mother was amazing. She really is. She's very, very strong. It's where I get my strength, I'm sure. My father was not really so amazing. So he was extremely abusive to my mom. Um, he was involved in the mob. He was involved in a lot of shenanigans. Um, and I grew up with cops at my house every single night until I was about in, I don't know, sometime in grade school. I think around fifth grade or so, where they were going through divorce proceedings at that time, and just grew up poor. My father was very, very wealthy because he was involved, like I said, in a lot of shenanigans and had a lot of money coming in. When they had the divorce, those divorce proceedings went on actually until I was in college. And during that time, my father, we grew up with no child support, no alimony, had his money hidden from my mom. He wanted us as poor can be. So, we grew up in poverty. But I always, even when I was young and watching this go on in my family's life, I knew that I had something more inside of me. I was born with this feeling, this innate feeling, soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, that I knew I had something more inside of me that I wanted to share with the world. And that was, I knew my purpose. I was very blessed with that from when I was very young. And that kind of guided me to be as focused and determined as I've been my entire life and continue to grow into being, to become a professional athlete. I was always an athlete growing up. And I knew I wanted to be a professional athlete, but not for the reason that most kids want to. They want, the fame, the money. I wanted that, but for a much different purpose. I wanted what I thought would be financial success for my mother and to take care of my mom and my brother. But I wanted the quote unquote fame, notoriety, not to just have that and say, to pound my chest, but to use it as a stepping stone, so to speak, to get who I am out to other people and to get involved in doing more motivational speaking, inspirational speaking, to touch as many lives and inspire as many lives as I could. And that's where it's come to.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that as we kind of go forward. I want to back up just a little bit because that's a part of your story that clearly I wasn't aware of until just now. And what I'm really interested to understand though is, you had all of this kind of dysfunction, as you said, kind of floating around throughout your childhood.
Sure.
Was there a specific person in your life that you admired or looked up to at that point of time that kind of kept your head straight?
No, it wasn't. It was never. Throughout my entire life, it was never one person. It was me, myself, something I was born with inside of me. Through my life, I've had many people that have come on, and I've kind of taken on different qualities that I admired about them and have held on to them as my own, and a little bit from this one and a little bit from that one, and have molded them into who I aspire to be and continue to aspire to be. So it's never really been one person individual. I've just been very blessed. And I always say like attracts like. Some people have certain energies, get drawn to each other, and you're there to help each other. Yeah,
no doubt. I agree with that completely. So you mentioned a little bit about the fact that you were an athlete growing up. I want to talk a little bit about kind of being a student athlete. So you played a bunch of sports in school. What was it about organized sports that actually kind of struck a chord with you? And I'm asking this for a very specific reason, because as we get sort of deeper into your story, the types of sports that you ultimately ended up with were not a team sport necessarily. So I'm curious to understand the team sport mentality first and why that kind of struck a chord with you.
You know what? It's funny how I got involved. Even playing, I played softball when I was very young, but when I got to more serious in grade school, was playing basketball. Actually, my mother had, I don't know, I think I was out on a playground at the school, and she says, "Oh, there's basketball tryouts. Why don't you go?" And I was like, okay. And she actually is the one who pushed me to do that, and I fell in love with the competitive nature. That's always something that's been inside of me. And then from that went on to playing softball for my school, and then volleyball, and it kind of grew. But I love the competitiveness of a team, not to actually compete, not in a negative manner, to push each other and to build each other, and just that union. I'm an alpha. I'm a natural born leader, so I love to be able to rise to the occasion and pick my teammates up and pull them together. I've always been captains of my team, MVP, so on and so forth. But I love that because I liked being the one that was able to, like I said, lift each other and always motivating somebody else, inspiring to do better. But again, it wasn't just necessarily that it was a team. It was, lifting myself, utilizing the team to aspire to greater heights within the sport itself and within my life. Being part of that team, it transcended into other things, just in life in general.
Yeah, I hear that a lot actually is from athletes. It's not just about what happens on the field of play or necessarily during kind of practice time or preparation time. All of that just bleeds over into daily life in terms, for the most part. And there's definitely exceptions to the rule, especially when you think about pro athletes getting into trouble necessarily. But for the most part, the mentality definitely bleeds over into day-to-day life, how we carry ourselves, the confidence that it builds, the relationships build, a lot of that stuff. So you mentioned you played softball, you played volleyball, you played basketball. Mm-hmm. So pretty much any sport that you can get your hands on, it seems like.
Yeah, I just love to compete. I love to challenge myself for sure.
So along those lines, in life, you're talking about defining moments. So you had a defining moment early on with the kind of period of time with your dad and your mom splitting. Sure. And that definitely helps to kind of define somebody's mentality, even though you seem, and I know you as a person, you're a very strong person, but it still has some impact on us.
It definitely had a massive impact on who I am. I remember being a little kid and my father just, when I just really ugly, violent with my mom, is like, I wanted to be the police officer at that time. And I remember, I don't know how old I was, maybe 7 or 8, but I remember that very clearly, and that made a massive impact on me to be even a stronger leader and to do right and to just try to protect, take care of my family. And it's almost like that's where I always say my heart is of a lion and my soul is of a wolf. And that was, I have to protect my family now. And that wolf instinct kind of came out, that's kind of helped to guide me along my path in life.
I give you a ton of credit because there's the complete alternative path where somebody could just kind of cower and just let things happen and then ultimately follow the same path, where you decided you're going to completely flip the script and you're going to do the exact opposite thing, which turned out to be the complete right thing for you, clearly.
Yeah, you can either in life, you can either let things build you or you can let things burn you, and I believe it was a little of both, because it was it's burning in a sense because you go through pain, but you decide to allow yourself to feel so that you can then grow and rise and transcend even stronger, like a phoenix. That's another animal that I really aspire to. I'm constantly being reborn, but it's because I accept and I'm going to hold on to. And there's times where I've gone through, pain in a lot of different elements in my life, but I accept that pain and I want to feel it and I want to understand it and I want to know the reasons behind it or why, I'm feeling a certain way, so then I can grow. And to me, it's not just my personal growth, but if I can go, looking now, it's not just my personal growth, it's if I can really understand, accept, then I can pass on to others. And I can help them through, even with my clients, what they're going through in one way, shape, or form, or when I go out and speak, and depending on, I go out and speak, I've spoken to at-risk youth, I've spoken at children's hospitals, I've spoken, on the Intrepid, I've spoken in a lot of different places, but I'll gear my speaking to where my audience is and how I can best assist them in their own growth and inspiration. So
sure, a lot of times you have to go to where people are at in order to help them.
Absolutely, yeah. You have to understand it. But if you don't allow yourself to go through that process yourself, and you just kind of shake it off and have that that attitude of I'm good. Well, you didn't really grow. You didn't really learn. So how can you help somebody else with that?
That's right.
And how do you become stronger with that to not deal with those situations again?
So let's dive into that concept of strength a little bit, because if we're lucky, as you said, we kind of learn from all of these types of moments in our life that help to make us stronger on a multitude of levels. It could be emotional, it could be physical strength, a combination of both. Now, if we just kind of turn the dial back a little bit to 1995,
sure.
You and your volleyball teammates were driving home from competing in the Empire State Games,
True.
Which is a pretty big deal.
True.
And this particular evening was a significant defining moment in your life. Could you describe to me what happened that night?
Sure. I'm actually going to go a little bit before that actually happened, to my senior year, where I had this feeling my entire senior year that something life-threatening was going to happen to me. And that feeling became stronger as my senior year went on. And something life-threatening was going to happen to me, but I was going to overcome it. when the car accident happened, I already foresaw all of that happening. The car that we were in, and it's funny because I wasn't even supposed to be in that car. Originally, I was supposed to be in my coach's car. Then something happened there, and then my teammate was like, "Oh, stay." Somebody else was competing in front of us in another tournament the next day. I was, no. So I ended up in this car, but everything happens for a reason. That's how I live my life. I went through that accident because it was supposed to happen to me because I was able to overcome it. I believe that. I know that. So the car that I was in, we couldn't fit a pillow in the back seat of the car. So I fall asleep on this pillow. It's a two-door Beretta. And the car, we're going southbound on the highway. It's pouring rain and the car hydroplanes. And I remember sleeping. I remember feeling my body move. But I guess I'm thinking I was dreaming. And then the next thing I knew, I was out the window of the back seat of the car. I was in the back window, halfway out unconscious. I remember just feeling wet. I remember darkness. I want to say, yeah, I saw light. I don't know if that's my imagination trying to, you hear that all the time. I don't know if that's my imagination coming through or not, but I remember that. And then the next thing I remember was being on a flat board and telling the medics I couldn't breathe, asking if I was going to die. They said, not if we can help it. I don't remember much. We were at a hospital, local hospital. They stabilized me. Originally, they were supposed to fly me down on advanced life support to Westchester Medical Center. The weather was too severe, so they put me to a local hospital, stabilized me, took me on advanced life support to Westchester Medical Center, where I did somewhere between 14 and 18 hours of surgery. When I woke up, the first words that I said were, "What about sports?"
Huh.
So my mom was bedside, and that's when she knew I was going to be okay. I didn't know what happened, but I knew what happened. And immediately, I started rattling off call Seton Hall University because I was supposed to leave in 2 weeks for preseason there for volleyball. And I said, get me the best physical therapists that there are. I don't remember anything after that, but I remember that.
So what were your injuries like?
I broke my left fibula and tibia. I have a metal rod in there. I had, where the break was, I had my leg severed from glass. So the break and the laceration cut a nerve. I had nerve damage. So I had no feeling from my hip to my foot. I'm still missing half of the feeling in my foot. They didn't know if that was going to recover or not. Thank God it did. Then I broke my right femur. I have a metal rod in my right femur. I broke my right hip bone. I had my leg in traction for 6 to 8 weeks. I broke all the ribs on my right side. I punctured my right lung. I shattered my right ulna in 5 places. I tore apart my chin to the point they didn't want me to see my face at the time, so you can't really tell now. And that's it. I was in CCU for weeks, ICU for weeks. August 5th, a week before Halloween, I was at Westchester Medical. A week before Halloween, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, I was at Burke Rehabilitation Center. And then the day after, literally the day after they released me from Burke, I was back in the gym training again.
So that's where your mindset was at, is getting back on the court.
Getting back. I mean, I knew in the hospital that I was going to be back. The doctors told me they didn't know if I was going to walk normal again because of my leg not having the feeling in it. I knew I was going to be fine. Actually, when they told me that, they told me they didn't know if I was going to walk normal again. And they told me that I was probably never going to play sports again. I told them, I looked them in the eye, I said, you guys have no idea what's inside of me or who you're talking to. And I never doubted that for a reason. That was never a question in my head. I knew it was supposed to happen. Like I said, I foresaw it. I knew why it happened because I was strong enough, and all I needed to do was get out of there and get back to work.
So here's my question to you, because, sure, look, that's pretty close to near-death experience, yes, I'm guessing. Looking back on all of that, you've had a lot of time to reflect, I'm sure. And,
sure.
Did it change you in any way?
It just made me stronger.
It just made you stronger.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that's something I was born with. I was blessed with. I believe certain people are given these gifts, and that's mine. That's my purpose, to inspire. And I take on everything in my life, physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever, that's going to come at me, and I hold on to it because I know I'm supposed to deal with it. I know I'm strong enough, and I know I have a greater mission to deal with. Life is not supposed to be easy for me, so to speak. I know I'm supposed to give in all this because I know I have a greater purpose in this life, and I value that, and I cherish that, and I'm grateful for that.
Did it make you feel in any way that your time is limited to a certain extent, that you kind of put the accelerator down on things so you want to accomplish things faster?
No. I don't think I ever looked at that, but I look at every day as you only have today. And making sure that, especially with myself, you always want to, I was very fortunate to know my purpose and my why. And I'm only going to do things that's going to lead me in the direction of that purpose. Everybody, of course, I'm human. I've made my mistakes. I've had my
Sure.
quote unquote failures. But even with those things and those mistakes, I said, I had to learn from them. It may have taken me off track, or I may have lost my way for a bit, but I needed to go there to get back to here and to be stronger, to be better.
Yeah.
So I've never really looked at, I had to put the accelerator on. That's just kind of how I've always lived my life. I lived my life even go back to childhood. I was very focused. I wasn't, out at the clubs all the time and hanging out. I was from school, going to my after-school practice for school, then going to junior Olympic practice, coming home, homework, back on the bus. Even when it was raining out, we couldn't afford a basketball hoop. I had a tree on the street that I used as a hoop. It had it split off into two ways, and I'd take my basketball and I'd try to shoot it through the center until one Christmas, one of my mom's ex-boyfriends bought us a basketball hoop. And I'd be out there in the snow, literally in the rain. I've always been driven. So I'm very driven on what I want to achieve, and I put everything I have every single day into those things, because all we have is now. I'm never going to allow, and that's the way that I work with my clients, I'm never going to allow, somebody to take those steps back away from what they want to accomplish, because you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring.
Yeah, no doubt. I agree 100%. So as you said, not only do you bounce back, but you totally excel. You're playing 2 sports at Seton Hall shortly after the accident, right?
Yeah, what happened was I was originally recruited for volleyball, and then when I went up to the school, I got there early, and it was another thing that I foresaw. I was like, let me go in the basketball court. I always had a dream of what if one of the coaches saw me and picked me up, and that's actually exactly what happened. I was messing around in the gym, and the men's coach thought I was a recruit for the women's team, and he was like, "You're not here to meet Phyllis," was her name, the coach. I said, "No." And he's like, "No, well, you need to be." And he pulled me in there, but it was already late in the recruiting season. All the finances were out, but they had talked. And when I went to school, they were going to allow me to play for both and then see what was going to happen. That ended up going a whole nother way, and the volleyball team didn't want to release me. And when you play at a Division I school, it becomes something else.
Of course,
a lot of times. So that's kind of what happened. And at the end of that year, just because of finances at home, I couldn't even really stay in the school, even though I was getting financially taken care of there. It was just not having money coming in, work, my mom's life. It wasn't a good situation. Yeah. And I stepped away from there. I took some classes locally. I had an internship my senior year of high school that brought me into training, and I went back to that, and I just stayed in training and educating myself through different courses and curriculums, and I've been around the best. I've been blessed to be around some of the best in the world of performance, sports performance, and human movement, and that's where my education.
Yeah, but if that's not all enough, in 1999, you entered the boxing world.
I did. Now that happened from the accident. See, you go back, you asked me about team sports and going to individual. Well, I never chose boxing. You understand? I
find that hard to believe knowing what I know about your story, but I'll let you continue.
So, okay. I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter from birth. Anybody, and I've said this in almost every interview I've done, anybody can be a boxer. Anybody can train for the skill, for the art. Same with any combat sport, but not everybody can be a fighter. Understand? That's something you're born with. It's either it's in you or it's not. It's that 1% that separates the champions from everybody else. So that's always been in me. So when I was actually training to get back after the car accident, I actually started studying JKD, Jeet Kune Do, through a friend of mine that was working at one of the gyms I was at, and one of my best friends said, "Oh, well, what about the Golden Gloves are coming up?" And she was like, "You want to compete?" She's like, "Why not?" I was young. I was ignorant. I was like, "Okay, I can punch." Met up with a guy that was an instructor at a New York sports club at the time, I think. And he actually was a complete con artist, which you unfortunately find a lot in the boxing world. He pulled me into his gym. I'll train you, and never spent a dime of time with me. This is all true. I was hitting a heavy bag by myself. He would actually leave the gym. But my heart kept me going. I said, no, I can do this. And in 2 weeks of just hitting a bag, 2 weeks later, I was fighting the national champion at the time. She was 23-0, I believe, at the time, in Ack Gleason's gym. I had no fight under my belt. I really had no training, but I was like, okay. Went in like a Tasmanian devil and had my nose broken with 30 seconds left of the last round. And this is where I say, life, there's some things that are greater than yourself in terms of your path. But it's, I believe in the law of attraction. I believe in heart purpose, those things that will guide you there, because there was no reason for this next incident to occur. I had one of the members of USA Boxing was at the fights that night, and she told me that one of the members for the New York team to go to nationals, for whatever reason, couldn't go. They had an extra ticket. Asked me if I wanted to get on a plane to Midland, Texas the next day to go compete in the U.S. Nationals. That was crazy.
So that's only after your first fight.
It's after my first fight, having a broken nose, having really no skill of quote-unquote boxing, just heart. And next thing I know, I was on a plane to Midland, Texas, U.S. Nationals, broken nose, 2 black eyes. Went through the whole competition bleeding all over the rings, which, again, usually in amateurs, Olympic-style boxing, they don't allow. For whatever reason, they let me. I fought in the finals against the same girl a week later. Lost there, then fought her again the following week in the finals of the New York Golden Gloves. Lost her there. And from that point forward, that really, brought me up internally another notch to focus on my game, and came back the next year, won the national gloves, and went pro, and things took off from there. But it was boxing that kind of all was brought to me, and I never thought I was going to box a day in my life. It's never been a quote unquote love of mine. But and even now, I can't say that I'm a true boxing fan. I'm not. I'm a fan of being a fighter, and I fought because I wanted to. Honestly, I found it as a way to, and people have told me it's my life in living art, watching me in there. I was able to inspire other lives, and that's why I was using it. I was all of a sudden getting fan mail. I was getting, people telling me what inspiration. I was getting emails, and I was like, I got to keep doing this. I got to keep fighting. And that's what happened. And the next thing I knew, I got contacted by PBS to do a documentary on me. They did a 1-hour documentary called the documentary series called In the Life. They said usually they do it half hour on one person, half hour on another, and they went through a full hour on me. Then I had another documentary from MTV2 and Logo that wanted to do a documentary on me. I had a gentleman by the name of Tokyo Rosenthal, who actually became my promoter at one point. He's also an independent songwriter. He did a song about me on iTunes, and it's just like one thing after another, things just started going, and just kept pushing me forward. I was like, I got to keep going with this.
Yeah, and you ultimately took it, and this is the remarkable part of the story for me. Yes, the heart, the soul, just the fact that you're in there, and you're just grinding it out. But you ultimately went on to become 3-time WBC lightweight world champion.
Yes, sir.
You just totally breezed over that. You didn't even tell me that. So just explain to everyone what that means. And I'm look, I can see you're kind of getting fidgety here because this is, I don't know if this is
awesome. No, I'm just getting relaxed. I mean, it's an
amazing thing. Like,
thank you. It is. Let me tell you. I mean, it's to be WBC world champion is one thing. To be a 3-time is something totally different. And I mean, there's a couple things. I'm not, everybody's like, you're so humble, because I don't brag. And that's, even when I was telling my story, because the stuff that means stuff to me is what I was speaking on. That's what's important to me. The titles, it's a name, it's a title, it's that, but what did I really do?
But it's what it represents more to me than anything.
Yeah, it's what it represents. I was told you're never going to be, I remember my first manager, he knew my work schedule and how I was, just trying to make ends meet and really just busting my butt. You're never going to be a world champion. Oh, yeah? Watch me. I've had so much coming at me from so many different directions of negativity. So to do that and to be in the most prestigious belt that's out there, I mean, it's a huge accomplishment. There's no words. I just got inducted into the International Boxing Women's Hall of Fame last year, and that's another, massive honor. So you're leaving
Congratulations
your,
on that.
thank you. It marks me being able to leave a legacy. And again, hopefully to me, it's a belt. It's a piece of leather. And I'm not putting it down, but what's more important to me is that story to others. Look what I did. Look what I did. Look what you can do. Look where I came from. There's enough out there that's been on me. There's a book that was released last year. It's myself. It's Sylvester Stallone. It's Quentin Tarantino. It's a bunch of big names called The Common Thread of Overcoming Adversity and Achieving Your Dreams. It's on the bestseller list. So it's like to be in those arenas, and allow that legacy to live on. That's me leaving my mark in this world of, listen, you can do that. And that's really what it means to me. That's the bottom line. I don't need to hang it. It is hanging on the wall, but I don't need to have that to know what I've done. It's just the story that I'm going to leave behind for others to follow.
But it is representative of a very long journey and all of the heart, soul, blood, dedication. So it's amazing stuff. And this is the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you, is because
I appreciate it.
I wanted to learn more about that. I think that's just...
My journey's not done. To me, I'm still going to say this is just me starting.
Oh, and I
Now it's
think
the next step,
I agree with you 100%. But it's just to this point, that's most people don't accomplish those kinds of things in a lifetime, let alone in the first few chapters of their life.
Thank you.
Against all those obstacles.
Thank you.
So how did the boxing chapter come to an end for you?
Man, I don't know if I wasn't ready. It definitely is hard because I still think about it. I don't know if I was 100% ready to walk away. But at the same time, one way I was. At the same time, I look back and say, okay, maybe something greater was putting a stop to it because they needed to go to a different direction. So really what had happened, I was waiting for a rematch with Holly Holm. When I fought Holly Holm years back, I think it was 2007, we had a very close fight. We were toe-to-toe for 10 rounds. I was on the Best Damn Sports Show, Fox Sports Live. I mean, there was a lot of hype behind it. She took the fight. I mean, she always fought in Albuquerque. When I came home to emails, my emails actually flooded with people that saw the fight, thought it was a draw, thought that I won, or thought it was, a lot closer than what they thought. There's a lot of people leaning towards me, and I felt it was at least a draw. I don't know if I had enough in that fight to take her, but it was a lot closer than what they called it at. Regardless, and I'll always, I don't want to come off as a boxer. I'm always going to say, this person, she got me. Like when I fought in France, Marion Lemieux that night, she was the much better fighter that night. So I'm always going to give people props. But that one fight, it never sat well with me. I always wanted the rematch. It was very, very important to me. Just internally, it was important to me, not for any other reason. The summer before my last fight with Holly, I actually, from when I was a kid, I always wanted a bike. I always wanted a Harley. And I was at a boxing, at one of the gyms that I work for, and a good friend of mine, he was into bikes, and he's like, come on, you always want it. Let's just go. And I was like, you're right. Let's go. And we went, amazing, got a bike, and freak accident. Total freak accident. I wasn't even moving. I sit on the bike at the dealership, and I'm listening to the sales guy. He's going over everything, and I move my foot, and the bike was actually parked on an angle uphill. And just me moving my foot slightly, the bike starts to tip, and I put my arm down, and two things went through my head. I just bought this. I'm not scratching it. And I got this, not a problem. I'm not thinking it's like a 1,000-pound bike, and my arm can't really hold that. I put my arm down, and I remember feeling crack, pop, and I was like, that's not good. Got up, rode the bike back to the gym. My elbow was huge, swollen. And what happened was I actually ended up breaking my elbow and tore my tricep. And shortly after that, phone call rings about a rematch with Holly Holm in a few weeks. I didn't know at the time that it was actually broken. I didn't know at the time that it was actually torn. I knew there was a problem. Push comes to shove. I end up taking the fight. My team tells me I'm good. Weeks have gone by. I was able to throw, but I knew I didn't have anything in my right arm. I knew it wasn't right, but I wasn't going to be the one to call the fight. It's not in me to do that. I was waiting for my team to be like, no, But again, it's boxing, and sometimes you have people in boxing that care about the bigger picture than the
Sure.
fighter. So that's really what it came down to, and the fight was not good. But I did it, and that got stopped in like the 6th round or 7th round. After that, I switched coaches and worked with somebody that, again, this is, I was talking about going and making mistakes and being human. I allowed, my arm to get better. Still is not 100%. It's still, even to this day, it's limited in extension. If I brace it, I can extend it, but it's neuromuscularly, there's something shutting off and bracing it. Regardless, I take this fight with this other coach that I thought was the right one because I thought I needed more in my game that I wasn't getting. Not to realize that he was changing my game so much, I didn't realize it until I got into the ring that night in Argentina. I wasn't me. What I won on, what made me me, what brought my attention was that I fought like a fighter, not that I fought like a boxer. And I allowed people saying, you need to, learn to hold on to this and do this and do this. But that totally took me out of my head mentally in the fight. So it was like maybe the 4th round in, and I was like, get yourself back. And then I started landing big, heavy shots on the girl. But I knew I was already down the cards. I'm in Argentina. If it's close, there's no way. And, she ended up, I got headbutt. They stopped the fight off the headbutt, which I was upset about because I felt fine. But again, another country in boxing, they're going to let the other girl take the fight. And that was it after that. I had a lot going on in my life. I was making a move to Florida. I got an opportunity to work for Juan Carlos Santana at the Institute of Human Performance. I had, a lot of things in my business life that I always wanted to work on. And there's just so much in boxing that wasn't in the positive light that I had really started to see. And especially with, the last fight and what was going on and the Holly Holm situation. So I took a step back away for a bit. Was still training. Got a comeback fight. Was in Florida for a while. My head just wasn't right to get back into the ring. I was too focused on everything else and building myself as a bigger level of performance coach nationally and working on that. And came back to New York. Was going to do a comeback fight at the Barclays Center. But again, you know what? It's after seeing people and having certain incidences that presented themselves from boxing to light again to me, I had to say no. So push comes to shove. I think things are just pushing me in the right direction that I need to go now. I made my mark in boxing. I inspired people there, and now it's to take it to a greater level, a grander level in other realms of my life.
Yeah, and there's an interesting kind of storyline in there where it sounds like you just kind of consistently following your heart and just everything is kind of coming from within.
Absolutely.
And, I ask this question of a lot of my guests, and I know the answer for you personally, but if you have to think about motivation, this concept of motivation, especially if you put your coach's hat on, what do you think is more important? Because a lot of what I talk about on the show is how we can motivate ourselves or how we get motivated to kind of overcome these obstacles, right? Most people are not necessarily in your kind of mindset necessarily where they have that type of monster drive to just be the best that we possibly can be. I like to think I'm sort of in that realm, but But how what do you think is more important? Do you think the internal motivation is more important? The external motivation is more important? Do you think it's a combination of the two? I
mean, part of what my lesson was in the last fight I had in Argentina, like I said, and I meant to touch on it was, I told you this coach that I thought was right. I mean, he had all the time in the world to give to me, wanted to give to me, wanted to work with me. I knew him personally, good guy. I thought I needed it because I allowed other outside influences of the boxing world to affect me. Took me out of my heart, my soul that I stuck on. I've always gone against the grain, even with the doctors. Doctors went from the car accident, don't do this, don't do that. I was doing it. I was going against the grain on everything they said. That's what brought me back, and that's what I've always lived my life to. So, that showed me, again, it was a reality check for me. Listen, you don't need anybody else. I got back to being myself in the ring that night, and I started taking the fight and started taking the girl out. Yeah. Until the headbutt. You were your true, authentic self. I was my fighter. I wasn't the boxer. I told you, everybody can be a boxer. Not everybody can be a fighter. You got to be a fighter first in life, in your career. And, you always got to be a fighter. So it's that internal motivation that has to be. It's that mindset. It's that drive within that makes you never want to settle Always want to push for more, believe, and not just believe, know. Because believe allows doubt. You have to not just believe, you have to know it and you have to own it to go after it.
But how do you teach somebody that? Because not everybody has that.
It's very hard. I fight with that all the time. I really do. Because I also believe, yes, you have to have the right people around you to keep you on that track. But if you're not choosing and driven enough to be there, nobody else can really pull you and hold you there. I don't, again, it's got to be born within you. You have to want it. As cliche as it sounds, you have to want things in your life as much as you want to breathe. You have to know that there's more for you in this life and be willing to put everything on the line and risk everything. Because I've risked my income. I actually got involved in a business decision in Florida. I lost everything I had financially in this decision. I got involved with somebody that wasn't on the money, and it was a bad investment, and I lost everything. But I was like, all right, that's money. I'm here. I can rebuild. I learned again. And it's being able to do those things and be able to come back stronger. It's again, it goes to will, it goes to mindset. One thing I remember when I was a kid, and it's funny because as I became more of a mental strength conditioning coach and speaker and just researching and reading, I learned about it as a modality that we'll use with individuals to pull them into finding their purpose. And I was doing this when I was a kid, which was I would look in the mirror. I remember being in grade school and I just stare myself down, and it's freaky if you ever do that. But I try to see, who am I? I look in the mirror. This is who you are? Is this what you want to represent? I look at my hands. I'm like, well, that's not me. I look at no, but in my eyes, like, that's my soul. Who are you? Are you being true to who you are? What do you want? And I remember being a kid, and I would do that. And then learning about that as I learn more about mindset and being able to inspire others and how it's a true to life modality that people utilize and the power of it. So, I think even doing those things as a kid and recognizing who I actually am, my true self, has enabled me to hold on to that and pull back to that in times of despair or adversity, obstacles, whatever, and be like, no, I am stronger than that.
Yeah, I think we all have to dive inside and really take the time to truly understand who we are before we can start to make any sort of moves in our world. It's interesting you said something because you mentioned something. You have to want it more than you want to breathe, and that's something. I don't know if you ever heard of Eric Thomas.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, Eric Thomas is a great speaker, and that's one of the things that he talks about is, in life, if you want something, you have to want it more than you want to breathe.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that. So
look, every breath that you take in this life, you're never gonna get back. So you gotta make it worth it. You gotta go after it. When I was a kid, I looked at life as a game. I didn't look at it the way that a majority of people really look at it. You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to go to school. I never looked at life that way. I look at it still as a game. And what's the most important part of this game? It's results. Results in your relationship, work, whatever, athletic career, whatever it is, it's those results. Your health is a result. How do you get to those results? It's the attitude that you have. It's your mindset. It's going to lead you to your thoughts, to your actions, your thoughts to your feelings to your actions, to your results. It's got to be that mindset. It's got to be that heart and the value. You have to know what that value is to yourself. You have to know what that value is to others that are around you.
Yeah.
You have to know what it is that you want, how bad you want it, what you're willing to give or give up, sacrifice in order to attain it. And if you can't look at all those things and it matches up, it's not right. Something's off. You got to reset that.
Yeah. So along those lines, I'm always personally looking for a good challenge. And along those lines, you recently became involved with a super interesting fitness company called Frog Fitness, right?
Yes, I did.
So what I'd like you to do is help me and everyone who's listening understand what Frog Fitness is, and then really what I want you to tell me about is this crazy challenge that you guys have put out there.
Well, yeah, about maybe about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I got a call from a good friend of mine, Rich Antonito, who's a UFC fighter who was doing sales for a company called Frog, got involved with them in his training, and they moved him up to being the VP. And he's like, listen, we need reps. We want to bring this product out to the East Coast. We want you to, would you be a regional rep for us? And I said, send me the product. Let me look at it. I got to feel it out. And I really felt a love for it. It's a piece of equipment that is based on resistance bands. It can use it in a horizontal or vertical manner.
And we're going to link this up in the show notes also, so everybody can go to the website,
cool.
see videos on it,
Cool.
so they can really understand what you're talking about. But go
Thank
ahead,
you.
continue.
Yeah, no, it's actually really, really cool. And you can use it in a stationary manner. You can use it. A lot of football teams are utilizing it in their training now in the NFL. We have some NBA teams that are on board, Major League Baseball. And we're bringing on high schools, colleges, so on and so forth, because you can also use it as a competitive nature to build team building as well, and turn training into something more fun. So instead of doing suicides, we can take this onto a football field, say, and actually utilize this piece of equipment to go across the turf in 4 different modalities that they've created, and be able to be creative off of that in ways that you can utilize it. What I found as a performance coach, and I like to, majority of my training is body weight, is suspension training. I play with kettlebells, with maces. I love to lift heavy, and it's not really, the way that I go.
The interesting thing is when I come in the gym and you're working out, you have some prehistoric stuff going on out there. The maces are super interesting to me.
Maces are great in terms of building overall strength, mobility, core integrity. I mean, utilizing the maces, utilizing kettlebells, utilizing body weight. That's my thing, lifting heavy, that's my thing. So when I got on the frog and, you look at it, it looks like a ab wheel or reformer on steroids. You're like, it's not really something that would pull me to it until I got on, and I was like, wow,
it looks like a
this
torture device, actually.
Some people say it looks like fun. You got to go that way.
Oh, I was excited by it.
But what I found by utilizing it is it really helped build up a lot of core integrity with myself. It helped me with my squat, my deadlift, helped me with a lot of work I was doing with the mace and with body weight. So I really got behind them, and am now representing Frog Fitness on the East Coast. And their challenge that they're going to be actually doing in 2019 is something called the $1 Million Mile, where they're going to set up a challenge nationwide to take this frog in the 4 horizontal positions that they utilize, and your goal is to get the frog around the track to cover a mile time. Every lap will be in one of the modalities in the horizontal position, and for whoever does, you have your chance to win a piece of $1 million share.
$1 million, huh?
$1 million. A piece of $1 million will be split amongst the winners. And we're getting all these corporate gyms involved. We'll see who signs on, and whatever gyms sign on to be training sites. If, say, for example, you represent Equinox and Roslyn will also get a good share of money. They'll get about $100,000, so the home gym. But it's very, very cool. Even just as a piece of equipment, forget the $1 Million Mile for a second. Just in different gyms to build that sense of community, because you can take it outdoors, you can take it in the studio, you can push each other on it. You can do different workouts. So it has that, I'm a CrossFit coach too. And, at CrossFit, one of the best things to come out of CrossFit, in my opinion, is that sense of community and being able to push each other.
Yeah, exactly.
In a lot of gyms within Equinox, near Sports Club, all the mainstream, so to speak, gyms, you don't necessarily have that. And I think this provides that.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a good supplemental tool to incorporate in your training to just get you over certain humps and push your body in a different level. So, I definitely get behind it.
It definitely pushes your body. You about a week or so ago, you put me on this device just for maybe 5 or 10 minutes and just kind of put me through some of the primary movements. I didn't do any of the vertical stuff. It was all horizontal.
Yes.
What I can say is I think I'm in pretty good shape, and you might say differently, but I think I'm in.
You can always be better.
No, you can always be better. I agree, but it was hard.
Yeah,
it really challenged me.
People are really challenged when they get on there. I mean, we had actually Rich Froning, fittest man in the world, winner of 1,000,001 CrossFit games. I don't know the number to be truthful, but incredible athlete, basically CrossFit god. He was challenged to get on it for 20 minutes, and from what I've heard, he lasted about 2 minutes 53 seconds straight and got off after that. So I mean, that's just a testament to how intense it is. It's mainly used, it is used for anaerobic more than anything else, and short high burst intensity to build efficiency and effectiveness and just get that quick training session in. And maximize everything that you're doing. So it's not meant for long, but the challenge of doing that and hitting those intervals is extremely high because you're utilizing your entire body at once, and people are not used to that. People are used to, you can cheat a lot of actions. You can't cheat on the frog because your upper body's loaded, your lower body, the core of your body, you have resistance from all levels. And there's zero way to cheat that. So you really have to stay focused and grind it out. But again, that transcends into everything else that you're doing, from anaerobic threshold being increased, lactic acid, to just power output all over.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. You and I were talking offline, and look, maybe we're going to create our own little challenge for me, and we're going to document that.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that there's links in the show notes for anyone who's interested in learning more about Frog Fitness. And I'm also going to put the call out there for any athletes with diabetes who might be interested in participating in the $1 Million Mile Challenge. So if you guys are, email me. You could do that through the website on thebravestlife.com, through the contact page, and I will put you directly in touch with Anne-Marie, and she'll be able to fill you in on some of the details as well.
Absolutely.
So here's some final questions for you.
Sure.
Because I know that you probably have to run and you have a client that you have to get to.
Always.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's awesome.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing.
You've been through so much in your life so far, and I'm not sure that this question is even fair necessarily, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Go ahead.
If you had the opportunity to go back in time and share maybe 2 or 3 keys to overcoming life's challenges with your younger self, what would you say?
That's a great question.
That's why I asked it.
Man, 2 or 3 keys to overcoming challenges to my younger self.
Yeah.
Stay true to yourself. Trust your intuition. Trust your heart, your soul, because that's what knows. It's when majority of people, including myself, you struggle with what you think, what's in your head, and what's in your heart. But it's neither one of them that give you what's actually truthful. It's your intuition, it's your gut. That never lies to you. Your heart can definitely play with you when you turn on emotions. It can create more stress and struggle to making your decision. Your mind can create chaos and confusion between your conscious, your subconscious. But when you have that feeling in your gut, you know what decision is what you should follow. The decision that is correct for you in that moment. So that's definitely key. Just looking at, again, what your ultimate purpose is in life, and if that decision that's at hand that needs to be made, or that challenge is going to steer you away from that direction, then don't risk that. Make the right risks. Choose the right battles. And I mean, I don't know if I have 3. Just staying truthful to your heart, to your soul, to your purpose. Really looking within yourself and knowing that you are. You can do things. You're able to. You're strong enough. You can overcome. You will. There's no doubt. There's no try. You try, you'll fail. It's I can, I am, I will. Just do. And if you keep that positive mindset, because listen, strength is a choice. Weakness is a choice. You choose to be strong. You choose to endure the struggles, the obstacles that go along with that. It's not easy to be strong. I mean, I joke around with a few people about that. It's like Moses, Rosa Parks, like all these people that are strong and all the garbage that they've dealt with in their life, but that was their chosen path because they're strong enough to overcome it. So know that, even to this day, there's adversities that I deal with on a daily basis, and I accept it. I hold on to it because I chose this path, and I say, okay, this is part of my struggle. And part of me choosing this is to open myself to that, allow it, but to give light and always trust that light will always shine through darkness, and not to allow this horrible, ugly word called fear to rob me of my dreams or what I may face, because what you fear will always be your reality. So, your choice is everything. You choose to be strong, you stick by that, and you accept everything, because that's only you eat it up and you allow it, again, to burn you or build you. It can burn you for a little bit, but it builds you stronger. And
That's beautiful.
Have confidence in that.
That's beautiful. So last question. If I asked you to define the word brave, what does that mean to you?
Oof. Willing to be your true self. Willing to stand up for what you believe in, because really what is right, what is wrong, and who defines that, and who defines who you are. I mean, I've been told my whole life, can't do this, can't do that, we'll never go to this school, we'll never be a professional athlete, we'll never be a world champion. You may not ever walk again. You will not most likely play sports again. Oh, yeah. Really? You don't know what's inside of me. So you don't know what's inside of me. You don't know what you're dealing with. You don't know the force that stands before you. And that's what I think everybody in this world, especially the other person, needs to hold on to and gravitate towards, because nobody sets your path. You do. You define that. I'm not going to let anybody else define me, define who I am, define what I'm about. People have their perceptions out there, and that's fine. But I'm going to define the reality of who I am and what I'm going to put out in this world. I'm not going to allow you to take that away from me. I'm not going to allow you to define my path and my success. So I'm going to keep pushing on, and I'm going to grab anybody that's willing and open to listen and take them too, God willing.
That's what it's all about. Awesome. Marie Saccurato.
Thank you very much for your time, Greg.
No, thank you so much. Love your story. It's totally inspirational. I love everything that you've been up to. And I'm really just happy and proud to share your story with my listeners.
Don't make me cry now.
It wouldn't be the first time. No, but in all honesty, I love what you're doing, and I'm in full support in any way that I could potentially be for your path going forward. So thank you.
Listen, you already are. I mean, this is part of my path. So it's a blessing to be able to be a part of this. This is what I told you my purpose is. So just to be a part of the show and be able to inspire others and help others, to achieve greater and their greatness within. That's the best that you can do for me, to be assistant in that. So thank you.
We're doing it. So
absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Anne-Marie. You guys definitely need to check her out online, as well as follow her story on social media, and also check out the $1 Million Mile, which is put out there by Frog Fitness. I'm going to put up links to everything in the show notes for this episode. So head on over to thebravestlife.com/015. That's 015 for all that information. As always, I want to thank all of you for joining us for this episode of the Bravest Podcast. If you like what we're doing here, please be sure to share this episode with someone you love. And one last thing, if you're into the show and if you'd like to take just a few minutes now to head on over to iTunes and leave a review, I'd be eternally grateful for that. At this point, there's a handful of 5-star reviews, and I really appreciate those of you who gave your seal of approval. But for everyone else, if you're up to it, leaving your own review helps others find us, so we're able to spread this message to a much larger audience. Okay, guys, thanks again. I'm Craig, and we will catch you next time on the Bravest Podcast.